Good morning and thanks so much for joining into the trade setup with me, Niraj Shah. The big news, of course, is that US President Joe Biden is out of the presidential race, has endorsed Kamala Harris as a Democratic nominee. Does this throw the US elections wide open again? Remains to be seen. Xi Jinping has vowed to rewire China's finances and help indebted regions. That's the other thing to watch out for in the session today. Derivatives trading impacting economy on a larger scale, as per SEBI chairperson Madhvi Puri Butt. She was speaking at a private event of the SBI Mutual Fund. And FPI has infused 30,772 crores in equity investment in July thus far. So while domestic mutual funds are sitting on a pot full of cash, it is the FIIs which have essentially been pumping in money in the recent past. Must say, the bets thus far now starting to look a bit feeble, at least if the implied open today is to be believed. Keep in mind, US markets correcting a little bit, futures flattish. Asia, across Asia, is a sea of red. And our implied open over 100 points lower? Yes, 134 points lower, so not surprising. You know, it's just difficult to see upsides with Reliance, banking, Wipro, JSW Steel, all of them coming out with numbers which aren't necessarily the strongest. So very likely that it's just difficult to see upsides essentially. So this number will look lower in the session today. So bear that in mind for sure. Leverage longs, to my mind, leverage longs should be careful with the position sizing. If you indeed have a very large set of positions open, please be careful with those positions. So that's the other piece. And Reliance, actually not Reliance, but more importantly, ONGC, as well as stocks like oil marketing companies, could all be in focus. I mentioned oil upstream here, but I think energy per se remains in focus due to valuation comfort, as well as geopolitical issues relating to crude bringing lower. Remember, people are looking at a Gaza ceasefire and maybe crude prices coming off, and that might be impacting some of the oil upstream as well as energy companies, so keep them in mind. Now, a clutch of stocks. Reliance very likely will start off lower. Overall results were a miss, with O2C and retail leading the misses. Remember, it was the biggest sequential drop in EBITDA in the last 7 quarters. Macquarie says it's a material miss. Nomura says it's the top area. Depends. But I think the stock will start off lower today. Then you want to buy into Reliance as a separate kettle of fish altogether. HDFC Bank, weak deposit growth in Q1 after a stellar uptick in Q4. They've guided for a slower credit growth to prune the high LDR. I think the big statement, though, aside of was the fact that it's focusing on deposits which have fallen short of expectations, but I think the big statement is the company's focus on profits rather than just growth. I don't know if the street will like that really, but even if the stock starts off lower today, the key is that ahead of the results, there was significant short build-up from the start of July. In fact, if you look at the quantum of short build-up, the OI above one year mean at $3.4 billion and a strong call writing at 1450. Now, the point being, or say at 1610 strikes, excuse me, 1450 lots were written at 1610 strikes. Very likely that if the stock starts off lower, then it could see some short covering, because the guys who are short will come and cover the shorts as well, book their profits. So very likely could see a bounce back at lower levels. Kotak Bank, though, no such luck maybe. Sharp decline in margins versus stable for HDFC Bank. They struggled on deposits. CASA is at a low of 43%. Brokerages, though, have raised target on rolling forward of estimates, so that's to be kept in mind. Wipro, miss on all counts. The stock will start off lower today. The ADR was down 11%. But just look at everything across the board. Weak results, outlook weak, guidance weak. Brokerages have touched the target price. Systematics, for example, is downgraded to sell. Target at 410 from 430 earlier. Very likely, or in fact, most likely will be down the session today. JSW Energy, the numbers were okay. Revenues were down, but margins and PAT were up. Brokerages have raised the target price. Jefferies, for example, has maintained a buy. The target price has been revised to 840 from 690. They have said that it's on track. It will deliver 25% EBITDA CAGR and 32% EPS CAGR, and on track to deliver the estimates on capacity addition. So watch out for this one. Then a spate of good numbers. Now I'll rush through. Transformers and rectifiers, revenues up 107%, EBITDA margins expand, PAT at 20 crores versus a loss of 12.2 crores. The Bloomberg estimate was 4.5 crores. Can you imagine the beat? Though I think they've fallen slightly short of estimates, so don't quite know if this will react as well as some of the others like Tejas Networks and Supreme Petchem and Shakti Pumps. So Tejas Networks, revenues up 730%, blockbuster numbers, EBITDA expands versus a loss, PAT versus a loss. very likely could do well. Remember, it's an expensive stock, but could do well. Supreme Petchem, again, good set of numbers. Revenues up 28%, but margins expand 300 basis points. It's from 7.4 to 10.2, nearly 300. And PAT up 76% at 122 crores versus 69. Oberoi Realty, good set of numbers as well by this one. Revenues up 54%. Margins expand to 58 versus 52%, if I'm not wrong. Estimates of 57.5. Net profit 585 crores, 82% uptick, higher than estimates. Then Shakti Pumps, sales up 5x, EBITDA margins, look at that expansion in EBITDA margins from 7% to 24%, as a result of which the bottom line numbers look stellar. 93 crores versus 1 crore YOI, could do well. Kirloskar Pneumatic, QOQ saw a sharp drop, but YOI saw an uptick, could do well. What didn't do well or what hasn't done well is PVR Inox. Revenues were down, margins collapsed, net loss widened to 179 crores. The expectations from Bloomberg were a loss of 165 crores. So therefore, do watch out for PVR, could have a negative reaction. Patanjali Foods, EBITDA margin expansion, PAT expansion could do well. EMS got an order, could do well. 535 crores JV order, an individual order of 140 crores. And lastly, ICICI Lombard, all brokerages have raised estimates. So watch out for that one too in the session today, could have a positive move.